All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire. Come on, you guys know him. He doesn't even need an introduction. I've known this guy probably close to 25 years now. One of my first jobs out of college, we were working kind of in the same shop. And man, I learned more from that guy in 2 years than I learned in newspapers in 5 or 6. Adrian Wojnarowski, the GM of St. Bonaventure basketball. Woj, how are you, man?
Jason, I'm great. We are a long way from the record in
Yes.
Hackensack, New Jersey. Our offices on the old offices on River Street. They're not even, I don't believe they're there anymore, Jason.
Wow. Hey, yeah, it's been a minute, man. It has
Yep.
been a while. And
Yep.
congrats. It's so random. I saw Woj out here in California crossing the street. I was like, what are you doing? And, hey, man, you've had a busy 6 months, shall we say. How's the new
Yeah.
job going?
Yeah, it's great. I really jump out of bed every day looking forward to the challenge of this. Every day is a little bit different. You're doing a lot of the, same pursuits of recruiting, NIL, trying to help our players and their families with things that, can be helpful to them, and, getting out and telling the story of St. Bonaventure basketball, St. Bonaventure University. We had some good wins this season. Just, beat Dayton at home the other night, beat VCU at home, beat Providence on a neutral court. So, we've got some great wins this year, and a really great group of players. That's been my favorite part of this, Jason, is being around our players, their families, and trying to help where I can help. And it's been a lot of fun. It's really been everything I hoped and more.
I think when the news first broke, Woj is leaving ESPN, being the #1 NBA reporter on the planet, to go to St. Bonaventure. People were dubious, like, "Oh, wait a minute, was it a scandal?" Because it's a weird time in college basketball, Woj, where you've got all these old great coaches kind of leaving the sport. Yeah, the guy at Virginia recently left right before the season. And here you are running into it. I mean, your job, GM, did not exist in college basketball. What, like 4 years ago? Maybe even less.
No, and I think it's, what's made these jobs necessary, or certainly really helpful at places, both football and especially football and basketball, is the portal and NIL, because we have perpetual free agency. Everybody can leave essentially after every year. And we have money that needs to be raised, and essentially salary caps that have to be managed. And you're working on retention every day. And that's part of, to me, our most important recruiting is our own players, and showing them, all the opportunities, and hopefully they're having a great experience here, but also understanding at the end of each year, there are opportunities to, that can be really tempting for guys. The money is significant, not just across the landscape, but in the Atlantic 10 in our league. And so, that's our fight every day. But certainly, as I dig in on basketball, I do marvel at football, and I watch, you kind of watch I try to read and listen to what's going on at Carolina with Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi. And it's fascinating in football, because you need so many more guys. Obviously they have staffs, and it's different. We're still, it's still, you put a basketball team together, you're trying to get 5 guys, and obviously you want a bench, and you need to protect against injuries and all the things. But it's fun. It's like putting a puzzle together. And, I come into this pretty humble about, I've got a lot to learn, and trying to lean on people a lot smarter than me, whether it's our coaching staff, and understanding with our staff about, what we value in players. And you look at analytics and certain data about things that we value that somebody else may not value as much, vice versa. And so that part of it's been a lot of fun. But a lot of it, Jason, is I've spent the last 35 years talking to players every day, coaches every day, agents every day, and you're still doing that, but you're having different conversations.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys, and listen, I did look up some stuff. It seems like the SEC spent on average $13 million in the NIL, and Big Ten was about 10 mil. I don't know if these are updated, but it was from ChatGPT, which is obviously never wrong. And you guys have to do it on a money ball, like a bit of a shoestring budget. Like if you want Joe Schmo and Kansas is coming after him, like that's a tough one for you guys. But I'm curious, like this money ball aspect, How much fun is it? Because it just seems like one of the best jobs that you could imagine.
Yeah, I think, for us, you've got to zero in on places that who you are as a school, who St. Bonaventure is, and what our identity is. Embrace it and find people who this appeals to. And it's not going to be everybody.
Yeah.
But, I think on a couple of levels, right, where we might be your first stop on the way somewhere else. We might be the place you have to come to get the basketball right. We have a Hall of Fame coach in Mark Schmidt. He just won his 400th game as a Division I coach. He's one of the all-time winningest coaches in Atlantic 10 history. He's behind, the likes of John Chaney and, legendary figures like that. And we have a great league in the Atlantic 10 playing against the VCUs and the Daytons. You're in the major media markets. You're on television. We had a first-round pick in our league last year. We've had first-round picks at St. Bonaventure. And so you find guys and families who value the whole picture of that. Like, Jason, we're not winning bidding wars. And if it's just about money, we're going to be out of it pretty quick and move on. But what I have found, and we're, especially with the group we have here, we have families who value the bigger picture of, playing big time basketball, but at a school that has 2,000 students. There's nobody quite like us in Division I. There's other schools that have 2,000 students, but they're not trying to play basketball and sports in the Atlantic 10. And so certainly you do the math. We have fewer students, we have fewer alumni, we have fewer people to draw from to raise money versus some of the schools I just mentioned. And so you're going to have to do more with less. We've had a coach who's done that over a very long period of time. And my job, people hear GM and they think of pro sports. I think of the NFL, NBA, the GM's in charge. I'm not in charge of anything. I'm in charge of bringing to our coaches and our staff options and saying, hey, here's through my relationships, old and new, here are potential players internationally, potential portal, junior college, Division II, high school, obviously, all the different places that you would draw from, and let's dig in on tape on them. Let's dig in on the data, and then let's see who we really want to focus in on in our recruiting. It's not like I talked to NBA guys, and I had a long talk with a GM today about analytics was a blind spot for me. This is not something I have a strength in, but I think I've helped to surround myself with people who are helping us. And, we're not trying to cover an NBA team can draft from anywhere they want. Like, if there's a player out there, they can draft them, they can get them. Maybe they can trade for him once he's in the NBA. We have to be able to recruit him. And so what I'm trying to do is let's build out a database of people, places where we have great relationships, where there's geographic fits, and where there's, again, like I said, maybe we're the first stop on the way somewhere else. Maybe you're going to come and play 4 years here. Maybe we're the place where you went to the big time program. You picked geography, you picked weather, you picked NIL. They were all bigger factors. It didn't go great. It didn't go how you hoped it would. We're the place to come to fix that. And you see we play for a great coach here. Hopefully I can be helpful with players, with NBA opportunities, other professional opportunities. Get guys in the gym with NBA players in the summer, have NBA guys coming through our campus, maybe do a pro day here next year based on what our roster looks like. So we have a lot to sell, and you got to drill in and find the guys who our story is compelling to. It's not going to be for everyone, but the good news is we just need 5 of them on the floor.
Yeah. Now, so I'm part of a Mexican soccer team ownership group with a guy you may know, former NBA agent Sam Porter. And one of the challenges is, you got to coach every different 2 or 3 years. He's got a different system he wants to run. You don't have the players for that system. So then you got to go find a couple new guys. But with you guys having Schmidt there forever, you kind of know what he wants, what his system is. Is that a huge advantage when it comes to the portal? Like, you can see a guy popping at Wagner and then, hey, that's a great fit for us. Let's bring him in. Is it make it a lot easier?
No, it's a great point, Jason. And not only do we know what a Mark Schmidt player looks like and plays like, and the tangibles and the intangibles, people out there who we would be recruiting with recruiting from, they also know. So you'll have people come to you and say, hey, I got a Bonnie player for you. And we kind of know what that is. That doesn't mean, what's great about Coach Schmidt is his ability to adjust and adjust to the personnel. It's not just, hey, you're going to fit into the system. You're going to adjust to your best players. But our group typically, like, we're going to defend, we're going to rebound, and so, we've won in lots of different ways here under Coach Schmidt. And, the hard part is, especially a program like ours, where, we had a run of 8 straight years, essentially, of first team All Atlantic 10 guard play, Jalen Adams to Kyle Lofton, where they became starters as freshmen. They were 4-year starters. They got us to the NCAA tournament. We won a lot. It's harder to imagine you're probably going to have a 4-year starter at point guard now. So you're turning it over faster. And so that's certainly a challenge for the staff, but it's everybody's challenge. And, that's, for me, is, I believe in this place. I believe in St. Bonaventure. The university was transformational in my life. And I think for a lot of young people, it can still be a transformational place. And our women's coach, Jim Crowley, said this to me, and it stays with me. He said, listen, you come to our place and you get on campus, and you either feel it or you don't. And if you feel it, it stays with you the rest of your life. And I see we're bringing back 25th anniversary team that went to the NCAAs in 2000, took Kentucky to double overtime. The entire team's coming back, and they're coming from all over the world, and how much this place means to them. And I really feel like when we're out recruiting, even in this age of the portal, we're selling a 40-year relationship. I want so much for our current players to see the relationships that this team has from 25 years ago, to see them come back to campus, how close they still are, how they're all still on a text chain. We had a team from the late 60s that was back earlier this season. I mean, these guys are in their 70s, early 80s, and they're still really close. And so for us, it's great for our players at a time when, again, they can move around. Some have moved, some may move again, but that they can look and say, hey, I'd like to have that 25 years from now or 50 years from now. And I do wonder sometimes in this portal age, if you go to 3 schools, do you really have one you can go back to? Do you really have one that you can call home? And again, that doesn't have to be important for everybody, but for some kids it will be. And we got to find those guys.
Let me ask you, you mentioned a freshman staying 4 years. It's tough for high school kids now, Woj. Like, it's like, why would I take an 18 or 19-year-old when I could get a 22-year-old who's been a starter for 3 years? It's difficult. How do you guys manage bringing in young guys who would stay with the program versus hitting the portal and getting high impact 15-point-a-game guys?
Yeah, there's no question, Jason. And with the junior college, with the lawsuit with the Vanderbilt quarterback, that changed the junior college eligibility. Now, players who we thought were out of eligibility after this year have 1, they might have 2 more years of eligibility based on how your junior college years are judged. And so, you're going to have, because of the COVID, we had the 24, 25-year-olds. Now with the JC rule, and there's a big difference having a 24-year-old point guard playing an 18-year-old point guard. You look at our league, there's young guys who play, and we have Xander Wedlow, who's a freshman center from Detroit, who's in our rotation and playing. He's going to be terrific. Typically it is older players, and you are winning, and the portal is important, and high schools in many cases a little more of a developmental route now. And you're seeing maybe high school players who might have come in at the Atlantic 10 level. Maybe they're coming into college basketball at what might be perceived as a level below. But I do think what you see is, if you're a player and you produce at what's, a low major, or you produce in Division II, there's going to be opportunities to move up. I think you look back at a lot of, look at the Division II upperclassmen now who are out there, many of whom kind of came through in COVID. And there probably were some recruiting mistakes made during COVID because people couldn't get out and evaluate. And so there are look at Drake this season with 4 Division II players in their lineup. You better be really digging in the Division II, Division III level. For us, Canada, Toronto's 3 hours away.
That's right.
That's a very important market for us. And so there's players everywhere. And you're right about, though, Jason, older, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people probably feel older is better.
Yeah. Let me ask about, it sounds like you have to divide your time. Some high school, you got to monitor high school, you got to monitor JUCO. You've also got to monitor Division I potential portal guys. I don't know. I did see that, the Patriot League and the Ivy League, they're struggling with the idea of paying kids NIL. Yale lost a bunch of dudes. How do you handle like just drumming up money and how to handle and divide it among whether it's a JUCO, a D1, a high school kid?
Yeah, that's the challenge. And I think everybody's grappling with that in the pros, there's a salary cap, and you have an owner who, even if you're the lowest spending team in the NBA, if you have a great player, you're going to pay him a max deal to keep him, right? Like it's different at this level, right? We don't have a quote unquote owner. We don't have a billionaire who's funding it. You're raising it as you go, and the generosity of your alums and donors. And then there's a lot of business partnerships that I spend, a great deal of time on, where you bring business to partners you have, and you get essentially a commission back of those. I spend a lot of time with those kind of fundraising efforts where you kind of get this passive income that you can count on over time. That's going to be the key of it. The donor model, especially at a smaller school, you can't just keep going to the same people over and over. You've got to find new revenue streams. You got to find marketing deals for your players. And so while we're recruiting players, I'm also going to companies and, national brands and being able to get potential NIL deals that, a particular player might appeal to that company, and calling on relationships you've had through the years. So you're spending your time on all of that. And, if schools are going to opt in, if the House settlement's going to go through, and the schools in the leagues that have $40 and $50 million a year television deals, who can fully fund, that $20+ million revenue sharing. I mean, that's not how it looks at St. Bonaventure. That's not how it looks with some of the schools in our league, but there's no question there's schools in our league that, are going to be really aggressive with essentially player salaries if that all goes through. So, that's where I spend my days on, are trying to close the gaps on that. And then we've got to be smart with our money. We've got to make good decisions. And again, it goes back to having a great coach in Mark Schmidt, who's a great equalizer for us. I know spending the most money doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but if you're at the bottom, pretty good chance you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to ask, so you used to cover, you've done a lot of college, and even when I was covering high school, you knew the lay of the land. I'm just curious. It used to be called boosters, and now it's like collective. It just sounds a little more classy and upscale. Is it the same way listen, there were some street agent kind of guys back in the day. Is it similar, or is the behind the scenes stuff cleaned up a little bit?
Yeah, like the players can have representatives, and I like that part of it. I would rather typically deal with an agent. I'd rather probably prefer to have our collective, when I worked with our collective, and dealing with a representative who's negotiated deals, who understands the marketplace. I like operating that way. And so having had a lot of those relationships through the years, and then, there's a new group of younger, like in a lot of cases, younger agents now, who have really been aggressive and smart in the NIL area with both basketball, football, and getting to know them, and, trying to get a sense of what a marketplace looks like, and being prepared for when that portal opens, that, be prepared for who may be available, and where the price points are going to be, and where the value is. And if you spend a little more at this position, you might have a little less to spend here. And so those are all the decisions you're making, and you're moving pretty fast. And so the goal is to not have dramatic roster turnover every year. You want to be able to keep guys. you could
Yeah,
do a great job. You know, the money elsewhere can be massive. And I'm never going to tell a young kid in a family that they shouldn't take a life-changing opportunity. I'll make the case for what we have and who we are and the opportunities that come with being at St. Bonaventure. But I'll readily tell our guys, hey, listen, there's probably going to be more out there for you somewhere else. But there's also a long play here with us and the opportunities that are here. And it's gratifying when guys feel it and they stay and they want to be a part of it. And when you have guys who believe in your place and fit, you just want to do everything you can to keep them, because that's who you win. That's who you win with, and that's who you feel good about winning with. We just have such a great group of young guys that, you know, for me, I feel a pressure to do right by them and help them, not just while they're at Bonaventure, but to be able to help them, you know, in their careers.
Yeah. I wonder, like, you know, I'm sure you have an example of a guy coming to you saying, hey, listen, Woj, you guys are paying me 100, but I just cooked this guy both times in our conference play, and he's getting, look, he's making 350,000. I need a raise or I'm out. I don't know if you've dealt with that, or how do you deal with guys floating fake numbers, which is what agents love to do to drive up their value and their client. I don't know. Like, is that happening yet? Or can you talk about that?
No, you know, I've only been here since September. We haven't gotten through that cycle yet. But I would tell you and again, it's why I love the group we have, is they've been really focused on, you know, playing, going to school, the job at hand. We'll get to that stuff. And I'm always talking to them and their families about what it might look like, and, you know, making sure that we're doing everything we can for them to maximize their experience here. And there's lots of factors that might lead someone to leave. It's not always money. It might be role or playing time or geography or whatever it is. But I've not had a player or a family come to me and said, hey, I had a good game. I'd like a pay raise. I've heard of it happening somewhere.
Yes.
And I think other places certainly. And that's why I've really enjoyed being around our group, and we'll do the best we can. And I'm going to be, you know, we're going to be aggressive, and we are aggressive in raising that money in NIL, and we're going to offer what we can and hope that playing for a winning program at a great university in a really good league and a really fun place to play college basketball. Our place, the one thing I've always suspected, and I know it by being here every day, you know, our place is for gym rats. Our place, the guys we win with and who have success at St. Bonaventure are the guys who want to be in the gym. They go to class and they do their work, and they want to be in the gym. And I love coming back. I'll come back to my office at 9 or 10 at night, and I see guys after they had, you know, morning skill session, a practice, study hall, and they're back in the arena shooting, back in our facility late at night. And you know enough about Olean, New York to know there's not a lot of distractions here, Jason. There's not a lot of nightlife. And so the guys who are going to do well here are the guys who want to be in the gym. And if you want a bunch of other things, we're probably not the place for you. So we have to find those guys, and then we got to keep them.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, where the heck is St. Bonaventure? I looked on a map. You guys are what, like 90 minutes south of Buffalo?
That's right. Yep. We
So
south, right near the Pennsylvania border, south of Buffalo.
how the heck did you convince your family? Hey, we're moving to Olean, New York. Like, is that a tough sell?
Well, the good news is I met my wife at St. Bonaventure. If she had gone to college anywhere else in the world, this probably would have been a different, probably would have been a different conversation, but she's been super supportive with this and loves the place. Like I love it. And we have a lot of friends here, and we're still in Jersey a little bit, you know, back and forth, and, you know, maybe in the summer when the portal's closed and we just got
Is the
summer
portal
school
ever
going
closed?
Yeah.
I
Good
feel like it's
question.
open 24/7.
Yeah. But this is a 12-month-a-year job. It is. But, you know, this is also, we're in the middle of the season right now. We've got recruiting going on. We're raising money. You know, we got a big game Saturday against Fordham at home. And so, but we've had a blast. It's fun for us to be back. I'm in a room downstairs at our Riley Center. You know, the student newspaper where I met my wife is just down the hall and around the corner. So it's,
cool. Hey,
it's been a lot of fun.
let me ask one more. So, listen, I love hoops. I'm in the gym all the time. You don't care, but we got a men's league game tonight against Timofey Mozgov, and we got a great team. But
Are
here's
you
my,
really playing Mozgov?
yeah, we've usually beat him, but he's got a really good team this year. Point guard from USC, Ethan Anderson. I don't know if you know the name.
Okay.
Played at Wyoming, Pepperdine, young guys. But the interesting thing is, a lot of these college basketball players. Let's be real, Woj. A lot of them are not going to go to the NBA. Some will probably go international. But for a lot of these guys, this is their chance to make big money, or 150,000, whatever it is, before they get a real job at Enterprise Rent a Car, or whatever an accounting firm is. And it's like, it's I understand why some of them would be kind of sort of chasing money if basketball isn't their future, and this could be a bigger payday than their first job. Have you had any of those types of discussions with either players or agents?
No, it's a great point, Jason. And I mean, come on, do the math, look at the draft. How many American college players are in the draft every year? The number's probably dwindling, right? Is it 30? Is it 35? Is it 38? But players are coming from all over the world. Some are coming from college. And you're also seeing more European players or international players because of the NIL who might have stayed and played for a club team in Europe. They can make more as a frontline player, frontline starter in college basketball. And so to me, that's a big part of my responsibility. Our responsibility is I want to educate, at some point this season, I'll have I want to get Bobby Marks in front of our guys, probably after the season, and explain to guys what's an Exhibit 10 deal? What's a summer league contract? What is a G League? What's a G League contract? How do you progress? I know everybody thinks about the first round or the second round. There's lots of ways. Most guys, listen, it's a very small number that are going to be drafted, but there's plenty of ways. And then the other factor, and I'll bring these guys through and we talk about this. How do you build a European career? How do you go about doing that? And I think there's also going to be a realization for a lot of guys that the money they're making in NIL at the college level, they're not going to just start at that number. This for most guys, many guys, it'll be the most they ever make. And are we preparing them with financial literacy? Are we preparing them to you have a right to do whatever you want with the money that you earn. So you have a right to do whatever you want with it. But I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we expose them to, again, we'll provide tax services for them so they understand the tax implications of earning, and same with their families, and make sure everybody, it's a new frontier. But to sit around and say, I always tell guys, and we've had NBA players at Bonaventure who I had great relationships with, Andrew Nicholson and Jalen Adams, who came through and went to the NBA. If you're good enough, I can help you. If you're good enough, I will make sure people know what they need to know about you and get you access. But if you're not good enough, I can't help you. There's no magic dust I'm going to sprinkle. But there are so many, but I think we have to also temper expectations about, you can make a great living playing basketball all over the world. There isn't just the NBA, and you need to have the mindset and the understanding and how to choose an agent and make sure that, it's somebody who has a track record and who can show you, hey, I've had success with similar players than you. And we sort of have this new agent space with NIL, and it's great. There's a lot, like, guys, I think it's great guys have representation and help. These are significant financial deals.
Yeah.
I don't do those things alone. You don't do those things alone, Jason. Why should they do those things? But, what you want to make sure is that they find people who have track records, who have credibility, who can help them maximize the money and then maximize their career. And so for me at Bonaventure, those are all things that I try to help our guys with, as much or as little as they and their families might want, and bring in people who can help them and expose them to people who can help them answer those questions.
And last question. So staff building, I'm fascinated by this because it sounds like you have an analytics guy on staff. I'm just curious how you built out your staff. Because listen, let's be real, kind of tough to lure people to Olean, New York, especially if they're, in their late 20s. Like, it's a town of 2,000 people, like you said.
Yeah, I've not lured anybody to Olean to work for me. I don't have a budget for that. But what we do have, and we're sort of getting it off the ground, is an individual who lives outside of this area, who has a great passion in this, great knowledge, great basketball pedigree, who's helping me from afar. And then, one thing we're starting to do is, integrating our student at St. Bonaventure, the Sports Analytics Club, and letting those guys loose on data. And so we got a great professor who runs that. And so, we subscribe to different services that help us with different databases. And so that is not my area of expertise. What I think I can be helpful with is using my relationships to bring potential players into the mix. And then ultimately, again, we've got to make decisions. Again, it's not pro sports. You don't draft them. You got to convince them to come. The money's got to work. It's got to be a fit. And so, but that's what I'm trying to do, are surround myself with people who I know what my blind spots are in this, and there's a lot of them coming in. But I do have great enthusiasm. I believe in this place. And I have found in my time in doing this, there are a lot of people who want to help St. Bonaventure basketball, a lot of folks who I've had relationships with for a very long time, who know our head coach and know the kind of program we have and see the value that players get here. You look at our team this year, and so many guys who came in here or developed in our program who are just have increased their value and their productivity and their efficiency as players. And then you try to sell that to the next group.
Yeah, it's very fun and exciting. Adrian Wojnarowski, amazing stuff. What a career. This guy helped me get my feet wet in Jersey, helped introduce me to my agent. Like, listen, man, I've known you forever. Great guy. Congrats on all your success, and keep up the good work, man.
Well, proud of you, Jason. Still love watching you. And it was fun to be on and talk through some of the stuff with you.